Just sit down.
No one did. Are we all here?
Yes, I hope so.
Good morning, kids. You probably know why I'm here. You've had some other grandparents giving talks about their life, how they grew up, and how it's different than you, correct?
Yes.
Hi, Sydney. Have there been a lot of grandparents from Germany?
No. Yes.
Some? Some?
Yes.
Yeah. How about the United States?
A lot.
A lot? What states in the United States? Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas? Go ahead, just go ahead, shout it out, because we don't have much time.
Florida.
Florida? How about northern United States, like South Dakota, North Dakota, Iowa, Michigan, Wisconsin? Any of those?
Wisconsin and Michigan.
Michigan. Can you guess where I'm from? Minnesota. I have compiled some pictures here, if you want to look through it and then just pass it around. So I grew up in northern Minnesota, pretty close to Canada, way up there in the woods, in the sticks. They called it the Iron Range. That's where a lot of the iron ore came from. Let's see. I brought along a couple pieces of iron ore. These are really heavy, so I can't let you grab them. Besides that, they're kind of messy. You get all this stuff. That's how messy it is. Just from touching them, you get all this stuff on your hands. But this came from the mines. This one was from a mine even farther north, and it was one of the first mines in the United States. They said it was the oldest, deepest, and richest, meaning I think the highest quality of ore, of iron ore. And from iron ore, they used that to make steel. So they used a lot of this stuff during some of our earlier wars, like World War I, World War II, the Korean War, because they needed metals for the planes and the tanks and the cars and the ammunition, all the weapons. So a lot of the ore came from there. This is really high grade, so it's magnetic. And this is a magnet. If you would like to pass it, give it to them so they can pass it around, Jan. Those are not as high grade, so they're not magnetic. So my school, elementary school, was fairly close to where we grew up, and there were 3 rooms. In each room was 2 classes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and grade 5, 6. And from there, we transferred to, they called it junior high back then. There was no middle school at that time, which was grade 7 through 9, and then 10 through 12 was a high school. But that school was 30 miles from where I lived, so it took a while to get there and back. Some of the chores that I had, I grew up on a small farm. That's right, a small farm. We had some cows that we had to milk, and at different times we had different animals. We had some chickens. It was always fun going out and gathering the eggs. We had some sheep. We would sell the wool. People would come by and share them. There are pictures in there. And we would sell the wool. And so the cows had to be milked, and that was one of the chores that my brother and I shared. And I got to tell you, I did not like that because, first of all, it's in the summertime there are a lot of flies and bugs in Minnesota. And these cows would always go out in the woods, I think to probably brush themselves up against the shrubs and stuff to try to get the flies and bugs off. So it was quite a walk. You have to go way out there and listen for their bells because it was a large area, and you'd have to listen for the bells and search for them. And then you had to bring them back and milk them. So that was one of our chores. I wasn't too fond of that, but you know how chores go. You got to do it. What I really enjoyed as a kid, I lived in northern Minnesota 22 years. What I really enjoyed were all the different things you could do, like in the seasons. And there's wintertime, and then there's the fall, and then there's Then there's the spring, and then there's the summer. And each of those 4 seasons of the year, you can do different things. In the wintertime, we we played hockey, we went snowmobiling, we went skiing. Occasionally the lakes would freeze before snowfall, so you could skate all over the lake. It was just magnificent, really fun. And then in the fall we did different things like hunting. There was quite a bit of hunting up there because there were a lot of birds, partridge and ducks, and that's what people do in the country. They hunt. I'm not sure I would enjoy it so much now because hunting deer, oh yeah, it's kind of no hunting moose. At least not when they did have a moose season in Canada a little farther north at times, but there weren't so many moose, so there wasn't always a hunting season. So, and then winter came. It was oh wait a minute, I already did winter, and then it was spring. What do we do in the spring? One of the things that I liked to do as a kid, there were a lot of lakes. Minnesota is a land of 10,000 lakes.
Yep.
And they would go from lake to lake. And in between the lakes, there are streams. And the fish flow between the streams. And we would go and catch the fish. That's one of the things we did in the spring. And then later, summer came and we would go fishing. Lots of fish. Water skiing, yes. Jaden runs faster than I do now because we go back almost every summer, and used to water ski a lot as a kid, and I forgot that I was old and not so flexible, so I tore my hamstring twice, and the second time it got worse, and I can't even keep up to this little guy anymore. He runs faster than I do, but that happens. What? Resort. Oh yes, okay, well, chores. I mentioned that I grew up on a small farm. In the summertime, we would have to raise the hay, they called it put up hay, out in our field, so that the horses and the cows would have something to eat. And that was a family event. It lasted maybe a month. First you'd have to let it grow, and then somebody would have to cut it, and then you have to come along with a different machine that would rake it into rows, and then you'd have to come with your baler, and that machine would make it into bales, and then you'd have to come with your truck and throw it on the truck and bring it to the barn. So that was quite a big part of our summer. And then when the day was done after that, we would go over to the lake and go swimming.
Or a jet ski.
Nope, never owned a jet ski.
Oh yeah, I mean like speedboats.
Speedboat, yes, speedboat and water skiing. A mile down the road, my grandfather owned a tourist resort. So in the summertime, people would come there and fish from different nearby states like Missouri or Illinois or Iowa, Wisconsin, and they would come with their family and their kids and spend a week or two. My grandfather had a resort. I think there were 12 different little cottages around. So that was one of the things that kept us entertained in the summertime. Otherwise, it could get a little boring up there because there weren't many people. My closest neighbor was a mile down the road, and they were my cousins. So there, it's not like living in the city where there are so many people around. There were hardly any people.
Pass it along.
And so when the kids came to the resort for their vacation time, there would be somebody there that we recognized from the last year that we played with, so we could spend some time with them again. Family vacations. My family had relatives out here in San Diego, so quite often we would drive out here to San Diego in the wintertime. So we would be leaving northern Minnesota where it gets really cold. In fact, sometimes it's so cold that the tires, you know how a car tire is kind of bulging a little bit when it sits down? That would freeze, and when you get in your car, it would be like driving on a block for 2 or 3 miles until it warmed up a little bit. That's how cold it got. I'm talking -30, really cold.
And then -80 wind chill. I lived in Minnesota.
Oh, you did?
For 6 years.
Oh, wow. Where at? Minneapolis?
Alexandria.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we went pheasant hunting in Alexandria.
Small town.
So, where was I? What was I talking about? Cold Minnesota. Vacations. So yes, we would leave that minus that cold, really cold weather to come out here, and if we were lucky, it would be when the Santa Ana winds are blowing. You know, the warm winds come from the desert, come this direction. It's like 70, 80 degrees. That's quite a change. So we were really excited to come out here to San Diego. So that was I would say one of our main vacations, and we did that once every 3 years maybe. And that was a long drive, 2,000 miles in a car with at least 3 kids. I mean, I was a family of 4 children, but oh yes. Okay, thanks you. Let me see. Okay. So another thing that we like to do, living in the country, there's a lot of wildlife, and back then, people would bring their trash to a dump site, and I believe that someone would come pick that up and take it to a larger facility, but all the people in the community would just dump their trash out there, and in the evenings, the black bears would come foraging, looking for food. So that was one thing we used to like to bring our friends over to the dump and look at the bears, because almost always there would be some bears there, which was pretty interesting. But yes.
I thought if you're near a bear, you usually want to run away, not stay with them.
Yeah, they weren't really afraid of us because they knew we weren't harming them, and they were more interested in the food. They came there to look for food. That's it, Jado. It's almost question time. Yes?
We were driving from here, Lemon Grove, all the way to Utah, to Mountain Green.
Nice. Was that in summertime?
To visit our grandparents. No, some of it, mostly in the wintertime.
Oh, so was there snow in Utah when you got there?
Yes.
Nice.
Mountain questions and comments.
Your turn.
We drove from Mesa to Florida.
From La Mesa to Florida?
Wow.
That's a long ways. Did you go to the ocean there?
No, we were driving.
So you didn't go to the ocean? Because the water, I think, is a little warmer there than here.
Oh, yeah, we did. But it's kind of colder.
Was it cold? Yes, sir.
My dad used to live in Minnesota, and we used to always usually miss the birds.
You missed the birds?
A lot of times.
Yeah.
Can we please have some comments?
Some of the, on the lake that my grandfather had a resort on, he gave a lot of the property that he owned to his children, and myself and my brothers and sisters built a cabin there. So we go back, and there are bald eagles on the lake, which was really neat.
I saw a picture of a bald eagle. Me too.
I think there's a picture in here of the bald eagle.
There was. I saw it. Me too.
Yes?
My grandma's moving to Canada.
Canada. Hopefully you can go visit. It's a lot different than San Diego.
It's like
Yes? In Florida?
We found the ball.
Bald eagle? Found it. Yes. What I used to like to do was, this might sound a little gruesome. Yes?
Sit down,
So
please.
we catch fish and we can throw them in
Keep
the water.
passing things, guys. We don't have all day.
That's right. I would get these little fish and throw it maybe 20 or 30 feet away, and the bald eagle would come swoop down and grab it. And another very interesting bird, which happens to be the state bird of Minnesota, is the loon. And there were a lot of those on our lake, like 5 or 6, and they'd have their babies. Those are really, there's a picture, but it's not a very good one. But those are very beautiful birds, and they make a very funny sound. Anybody know what kind of sound the loons make? She knows.
Do you remember doing this, Bart?
Yeah, I'm not good at sound
I
effects.
can't do it. We used to clap our hands together and blow, and then I can't. I've lost my skills.
Yeah, you'll have to Google it. That's Loon, loon, and that's the state bird of Minnesota. Yes, Jada.
One Canada is famous for the maple syrup.
Oh yeah, maple syrup. That's right, from the maple trees. Yes.
I found the loon on your trash.
Okay, please stop.
Is there where on my shirt? Oh yeah, that's a better picture. That's what they look like. Thank you for that.
Is Alexandria on there?
Oh, I'm sure it is. I know.
Minnesota women.
I just dug this out from my
Yeah.
never wear clothes this morning. I thought it would be a good thing. I don't know.
Up in Red Lake.
So, what else about Minnesota? Can you help me out?
How about the beavers?
The beavers. Oh,
Yeah.
beavers. Yeah. When you're young, you do foolish things, and I can't say I would do this today, but when I was young, I actually trapped muskrat and beaver because I was from that part of the woods where people did that. They hunted, and not very many people trapped. But well, yeah, I did it because I was a young boy and I liked the money, so I would sell them for the first. What?
My grandpa tracked muskrats.
Did he? Where at?
He was growing up on a barn.
What state?
I don't know.
Somewhere up north. I'm sure. Yep. Yes, way back there.
My dad like muskratting, but he saw a
A bobcat.
Yeah. Bobcat. Oh, I love bobcats.
Timberwolves are. The population of timberwolves is growing a lot in that area in northern Minnesota. There are quite a few now.
How about music?
Music. Oh yes. My family. I come from a family of musicians. Yeah, when I was, our family had a band, and
Sit down.
we would play out at clubs and
Luke.
weddings and all kinds of things, and I was playing when I was very young, and I still play music today. And my cousins play. In fact, one of the oldest cousins plays with the band called the Eagles. Not anymore because I think they won't be playing since one of the guys died. But excuse me,
I play.
what do you play?
And ukulele.
Ukulele and what else?
Piano.
Nice. What, Jada? What? What's that? Oh yes, Jaden likes to play harmonica.
We saw that when he shared his
That's
keepsake.
right.
We
Yeah.
got a nice little tune.
Okay. Again?
I forgot. You will not be taking comments. My dad plays the harmonica.
Sydney.
Nice. Yes.
I have a harmonica, but mine is actually slow.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I have piano lessons today.
What?
I have piano lessons today.
Uh-huh.
Every Friday.
All right. Good.
Tuesday. And I have like yoga on Friday sometimes. I have the piano and like family drum at home, except the family drum's broke.
Uh,
But I also have a harmonica, and so does my brother.
yeah, harmonicas are probably one of the best instruments there is because they're so tiny you can just stick it in your pocket. Unlike a drummer, has a lot of different instruments that combine to make one. Or like a trumpet would be good. Excuse me? What? In the city?